Welcome to Speaking of Sports. I'm your host, Jared Slack. This week I'm going to go over the MLB free agency, talk about the NBA, NFL talk, and I'm going to wrap it up with your fantasy football perfect lineup for Week 9. I'm going to start with the MLB free agency. It has officially kicked off. Here's some big names and the 2019 offseason free agency list. You got Garrett Cole, third baseman Anthony Rendon, Steven Strasburg, Zach Wheeler, along with some other really big names. I would like to take a moment to talk about what the Rangers could potentially do this offseason, trade-wise and in free agency. They are in the market to try and spend some money this year. They haven't really done that in the past as much, but they're not wanting to go into a full rebuild this year, or they're not really wanting to go into a full rebuild at all. They're looking to pick up a few free agency picks. They're looking to sign a couple people, trade a couple people, and hopefully get back into competing for a World Series, back into the playoffs again that way. In my opinion, that's kind of putting a Band-Aid on the solution, or a short-term solution, not really long-term. You're not building your farm system. If anything, you're kind of getting rid of everything just to go for it all again, which in my mind that doesn't seem like the way to go. But I don't get paid the big bucks, and they do, so they know what they're doing. They are going to be interested in getting people like Garrett Cole, Anthony Rendon, Steven Strasburg, people like that. But if they aren't able to get that, and the deal isn't able to get done, you have people like Zach Wheeler, who is a good major league pitcher, and he could bring something to your team. You also have people like Josh Donaldson, who Rangers fans might not be interested in due to the history in 2016. But as soon as someone bats for above average and hits 25 plus home runs, they're going to completely forget about the past and be grateful that they're on their team. Now I'm going to talk a little NBA. Last year's MVP winner, Giannis, is looking even better than he did last year. He's having an all-around better game, all-around better player. James Harden is also doing very well. It's looking like it's going to be kind of the same how it was last year, all the way up until the end. It's going to be a very close race all the way. It's going to take all 82 games to decide this MVP. And even then, there's going to be people arguing the other person should have won. I'm hoping that's the way it is. Hopefully, both players have a great season. I'm going to talk a little Dallas Mavericks. They've had an impressive 5-2 start to the year. A couple things that they absolutely need to work on are their defense and free throws. The Orlando Magic topped 100 points the other night for the first time this year. And they can give thanks to the Mavericks defense for that. Dallas has already this year had one game slip due to missed free throws, and they almost had another one on Wednesday night against the Magic. If it wasn't for last Friday night's game, when a player for the Mavericks missed a free throw with just seconds to spare against the Lakers, they would be 6-2 or 6-1 right now, on top of the Western Conference and full in control of their destiny right now. Tonight, the Mavericks face Kristaps Porzingis' former team, the New York Knicks, and this is going to be his first time back at the Garden, and I fully expect him to have a great game. Now let's move on to the Cowboys-Giants Week 9 game this past week. To me, this seemed like another trap game for the Cowboys, kind of like the Jets were. This was a very sloppy game, especially by the offense as a whole. They got the win, and that's all that matters. But their defense played very well. Offense gave up a couple real big turnovers, and the defense really held the Giants' offense to mostly field goals. And other than that, they kind of kept Saquon under check. His rushing yards were way down, way below normal. He did break away for one screen pass that went like 60 yards, but that was the only time you heard Saquon's name, besides the fact that they kept on mentioning Dallas just wasn't giving up the big run to him. Okay, now into some Week 10 news. Amari Cooper had an MRI on his knee. They don't know a whole lot of it yet, but it looked minor. We'll know a little bit more about that this evening. Dallas will play at home on Sunday night against the Vikings. The Vikings are a good football team. This team kind of worries me. They are without Adam Thielen, their best receiver, and but they do have the NFL's leading rusher on their team, Dalvin Cook. He's having a great season this year, but that's one of Dallas's strong points is their rush defense. If they keep him under control, kind of like they did Saquon, kind of like how they did Alvin Kamara, they'll probably be in good shape. I don't think that Kirk Cousins can fully put this team on his back, especially with pretty much all they have is Stephon Diggs at wide receiver. I don't think that he can put the team on his back, and especially if Dallas gets their rush defense going. I'm going to now go to the Week 10 or Week 9 fantasy football perfect lineup. You got the quarterback Russell Wilson. He had 378 passing yards with 5 touchdowns for a total of 39.22 points. Christian McCaffrey, your number one overall running back, 146 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 reception for 20 yards through the air for 37.6 points. Kenyon Drake, the newly acquired running back for the Cardinals, 110 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, 4 receptions for 52 yards for 28.2 points. Tyler Lockett, 13 receptions, 152 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, 40.2 points. Mike Evans, I feel like we hear his name every week. He had 12 receptions, 180 yards with a touchdown for 36 points. DK Metcalf, 6 receptions, 123 yards for 1 touchdown. He had 27 points. Zach Ertz, he had a good night. 9 receptions, 103 yards, 1 touchdown for 25.3 points. Kicker Chris Boswell, he had 4 field goals, 2 PATs for 16 points. And the number 1 overall defense was the Texans, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles for 19 points. Dallas actually came in second behind Texans with 18 points, and they had a good game this past week. I think the coolest thing that happened this week was the Seahawks had 3 people finish amongst the top fantasy leaders this week. That's pretty neat for them. They had a really good game. That totals up to be 268.52 points. It was a good week overall for the NFL, and I fully expect it to happen again next week. That's all I have for this week. Thanks for listening to Speaking of Sports. I've been your host, Jared Slack. Make sure to listen to my podcast on the Mute Mogul Media radio show on Facebook. Download the app, like it, share it for me, please, if you will. If you have any questions that you would like answered, and would like them answered on the show, just message me personally or click the link below, and I'll try to get that on the show next week. Just thank you for listening to Speaking of Sports.